The average American spends more than a third of their paycheck within 12 hours of receiving it. By 48 hours, nearly half is already gone. And most people aren't even aware of this habit. That's not a discipline problem. That's a design problem. Your brain is wired to spend the moment money hits your account. And unless you have a system that moves faster than your impulses, you'll keep losing this race every 2 weeks. But here's the thing. There's a simple routine that takes about 10 minutes on payday, and it could be the difference between building real wealth and wondering where all your money went. Here's something that might sound familiar. You get paid. You check your balance. And for a brief moment, everything feels fine. Bills are covered. Maybe you treat yourself to something small. Then a week goes by. You check again. And somehow the number is way lower than it should be. You can't point to any one big purchase. It just disappeared. And that's exactly why we built Wally. You don't need to link your bank account. Just upload a statement or scan a receipt, and it pulls out every transaction automatically. You'll see exactly where your money is going, broken down by category, month by month. It's free forever. You can download it on your phone. Link is in the description. And you're not alone. A 2025 survey found that 34% of Americans overspend in the days right after payday. Among Gen Z, it's 52%. And this is happening while 62% of adults are already living paycheck to paycheck, not because they don't earn enough, but because the money moves before they do. Which raises a question most people never stop to ask. What if you could move first? That's what we're breaking down today. But first, you need to understand why payday spending is so hard to control, because the reason isn't what you think. There's a reason your spending spikes on payday, and it has nothing to do with being bad with money. It's built into your biology. Researchers at UC Berkeley analyzed 60 million transactions from 75,000 people and found that spending jumps the day payments arrive and stays elevated for days. A separate study found consumer spending increases 33% on payday across the board. Restaurants, retail, even bookstores. And the reason this keeps happening is something called the sudden wealth effect. When money appears in your account, you experience a temporary sense of abundance that triggers spending before rational thought kicks in. The mechanism was originally studied in lottery winners, but it works at every scale, including your bi-weekly paycheck. And there's another layer to this. Nobel Prize-winning economist Richard Thaler calls it mental accounting. A fresh paycheck feels like a windfall, even though it's the same income you earn every 2 weeks. And windfall money gets filed in a mental account with much looser spending rules. That's why experts recommend waiting 24 hours before making discretionary purchases after payday. The impulse typically fades within a day or two. But for most people, by then, the damage is already done. And that leads to the obvious next question. Can you just power through it with discipline? You might be thinking, okay, I just need to resist the urge and be smarter about this. But here's what the research shows. Willpower is not a reliable financial strategy. Psychologist Roy Baumeister found that self-control works like a muscle. It gets depleted with use. Every decision you make throughout the day draws from the same mental resource, which means by the time you're looking at your bank account after a long day, your willpower tank is nearly empty. And the numbers confirm it. The National Bureau of Economic Research found that 68% of employees felt they were saving too little. 24% planned to start soon, but only 3% actually followed through. 68 to 3. The intention is there. The follow-through isn't. And that's not because people are lazy. It's because the system requires you to actively choose the right thing every single time. The answer isn't more discipline. It's a better default. And once you see how this default works, You'll understand why the people who use it end up in a completely different financial position. Here's the routine. It's simple. It takes about 10 minutes, and once it's set up, most of it runs on autopilot. Step 1. Pay yourself first. Before you pay a single bill, before you buy anything, a fixed percentage goes directly into savings and investments. Not what's left over, the first cut. Set up an automatic transfer that fires the same day your paycheck lands. Even 10% is enough to start. That money moves before you ever see it. Step 2. Automate your fixed expenses. Rent, utilities, insurance, debt payments, all on autopay. Ramit Sethi calls this the conscious spending plan. Fixed costs take 50 to 60%, investments 10%, savings 5 to 10%. And what's left, 20 to 35%, is guilt-free spending. Yours to use however you want, without anxiety or mental math. Step 3. A 5-minute check-in. On payday, pull up your accounts, confirm the transfers went through, make sure nothing looks off. 5 minutes of attention, and your financial system runs itself for the next 2 weeks. And here's the research that proves this works. The landmark study on default effects found that automatic enrollment in retirement plans increased participation from 37% to 86%. Thaler and Benartzi's Save More Tomorrow program nearly quadrupled savings rates, from 3.5 to 13.6%. Once you remove the decision from the equation, people save, every time. But knowing the routine is only half of it, because what this builds over time is the part that changes everything. Say you earn $60,000 a year and set aside 10% with each bi-weekly paycheck. That's about $231 every 2 weeks. Over 30 years, at a 7% average return, that grows to $612,000. Your total contributions would be $180,000. The rest, over $432,000, is pure compound growth. The interest earned exceeds the total amount you ever put in. And here's what makes that even more significant. Researchers Venti and Wise found that income differences explain only 30 to 40% of the wealth gap in retirement. The remaining 60 to 70% comes down to behavioral factors, habits, systems, consistency. Meanwhile, Dalbar's research shows that the average investor underperforms the market year after year, not from bad stock picks, but from bad behavior. Over 20 years, a simple buy and hold approach would be worth 22% more than what the average investor actually earns. And the best performing accounts at Fidelity reportedly belonged to people who had forgotten they even had an account. No trades, no timing, just consistent contributions, left alone. Remember that stat from the beginning? A third of your paycheck gone in 12 hours? That doesn't have to be your story. The gap between people who build wealth and people who don't isn't income. It isn't luck. It's whether they have a system that works without requiring them to be perfect every single time. Automate your savings. Automate your bills. Check in once every 2 weeks. The whole thing takes less time than making coffee. And once it's running, you get something most people never experience with money: peace of mind. You don't need to be a financial expert. You just need 10 minutes every payday to make sure your money moves before your impulses do. If this changed how you think about payday, there are more videos on this channel that break down money the same way. Calm, clear, no judgment. Just things you can actually use.